Hey everybody, welcome to Kansas. If anyone ever told you that Kansas is flat, then ask again. It certainly is not flat. It's actually, if you look at like this, it's really steep even, right? But it's not flat. We have streams in the background that are cutting a landscape into a sedimentary bedrock, I guess you could say. The bedrock here, you've maybe heard me talk about that before, consists of harder and softer layers, and if you look in the back over there, you can see that some of those harder layers form benches, and then the softer layers form the more inclined slope. I'm currently standing on one of the benches. If you look with me, behind me here, you see the bench not so clearly in terms of the rock, but you see it very clearly in terms of the vegetation that grows. Well, we have just a slightly different, I guess you could say, biotope for the plants growing in between the rocks of the bench. There's a little bit more water coming out laterally from the hill slope. There's a little bit more shade, there's a little bit more protection, especially from fire and grazing, and so you get a little bit more higher plants. But that's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is what is actually visible, what's happening to that harder rock, that layer that you see a little bit here under me, as you go into the hill slope. So over there, that way. One popular conceptual model is, so a conceptual model means a way of thinking. One way of thinking about it is that that layer is initially simply very flat, composed of nice blocks that are all nicely lined up. We see that in road cuts as well. And then as they approach the hill slope, those blocks start to crumble, weather, break up, and then ultimately are part of the hill slope under where that hard layer crops out. And to test that hypothesis, or to see if we're right in that way of thinking, my student Colleen, who is all the way in the back there. Hi Colleen, that's Colleen. We have Harson around too, by the way, in red, and then we have Mustafa over there. So we are a very international group here. So Colleen, one of her projects for her PhD is to figure out what's actually the case. What's actually the properties of that hard layer of rocks that we presume to be nice and smooth, where it is, underlying the hill slope. And what we're finding, you could even see it from here, I would say, what we're finding is that it's nothing like smooth and well organized and simply blocks lying next to each other. We see maybe a little bit of organization still over here. You have relatively large blocks that are kind of like a pavement, right? Like maybe it's not your bedroom pavement or your bathroom pavement, but it's maybe, old Roman pavement, a little bit jumbled, right? I can see that. That's actually close to the conceptual model, but mostly what we're finding is something much more chaotic, with a lot more jumbling to the blocks. There's still maybe a little bit of organization to them, but it seems to be the case that that surface is much more irregular. Some blocks are outright lying above the surface, some blocks are just completely on their sides. I'm gonna try and show you that as I continue talking about it. And then a good question is, of course, why, right? Apparently we have to adapt our way of thinking, we have to adapt our conceptual model here. And the prime candidate to explain that we don't find it so nicely organized as a pavement, as a buried pavement, is a process that has occurred across much of North America, and I mean northern United States and Canada, during the glacials. And that process is cryoturbation, so turning things around because of frost-wedging, freezing of the subsoil, melting of the subsoil, discontinuous permafrost phenomena. And well, there's some really good science been published by colleagues of mine who sort of show that this has been the case widely, and we are now sort of coming to terms with the fact that that probably also has had major implications for the appearance of these buried layers of hard rock in between the softer rocks of the Kansas sedimentary sequence here in the Flint Hills of Kansas. It matters because if it's a well organized buried pavement type of sedimentary rock, then that will function very differently in terms of the hydrology of the hill slope, in terms of the rooting possibilities for plants, and in terms of how easily it will break up and ultimately make its way down to the streams. So we are finding that, and we're working on that for Colleen's PhD. So yeah.